want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
It is that time, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
You know what time it is.
You know exactly what time it is. It's time for me to say that I am Kirk M. Samuels.
Time for me to say I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you. And tonight we're talking about expectations, people.
Right up in your eyeball right there on the screen.
Up in my eyeball.
Hey, man. This is good stuff, man. This is fantastic. For those of you who don't know, I mean, I went down and hit share on my phone because as we, as we do these, we sit down on Monday evenings and do this thing live. We sit down on Tuesday evenings and do it again live. And post them on Facebook, YouTube, all the interwebs, and all that kind of stuff. And so, man, this is just good stuff, man.
Yeah, and if you are watching live, you can go onto the Mad Men Radio page on Facebook and comment. Although Facebook has been having issues, and so if we do not get your comments, then we apologize. We'll get back to you later.
They got more issues than Kleenex got tissues. Know what I'm saying?
It is true, man. Mr. Zuckerberg's losing all kind of money now. He's looking like a fool.
Elon must have bought the wrong one, or maybe he bought the right one.
Maybe he's setting them up. He's
gonna buy them all. Maybe he's gonna own it all. Something like that, man.
Yes, sir.
Man, we got this daylight savings time that just happened, and
it's messing you up.
It's messing me up big time, man. It feels like it's 4:50, 90 o'clock.
That's right.
Man, it feels late, dude. It feels late lately. I left work. I was like, man, I left the office. Man, I'm like, what in the world is going on here, man? It's about sunset out this bad boy.
What'd you say, 4:50, 90 o'clock?
Something like that.
I like that.
It feels late, man. It just feels late. So our bodies need to adjust and all that kind of stuff, and we need to make sure we have right expectations for our day.
Oh, check you out. Look at the segue.
Oh, and you see what I did there. The more you know.
Ding, ding.
Absolutely, man.
So yeah, since we've been doing all these other episodes that are a little more on that kind of downer side of divorce and things, and this time we're like, you know what should we talk about? I've actually been reading this book, Marry Him by Lori Gottlieb, who is a psychotherapist who actually wrote another book that maybe she talked to somebody about getting therapy and things like that. And what was really interesting is that the whole premise of her book is that the expectations of a lot of ladies and even a lot of guys nowadays are so out there. There's next to no reality. Maybe you're a 5 or 6 on a good day, but you want a 10. And so what's happening is a lot of people are giving up a good 7 or 8. Like this person meets 70 or 80% of your criteria, but since you're not having the feels and the butterflies anymore, you're gonna let them go, thinking that you can trade up to a 10. And I don't know where that guerrilla math came from, but that just doesn't work.
I think, maybe folks, look in the mirror and they kind of see who they used to be. Maybe they look in the mirror and they see who they were when they were 20. Because I think on the insides, none of us feel like, we're, however old we are, especially if you, like some of us, about to turn 50.
I'm 42, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm 40, 90 o'clock. But you don't see yourself as like, man, the old gray mare just ain't where she used to be kind of thing. And I think we look in the mirror and we see who we think, we see who we want to, and we see who we wish we were or who we used to be. And then we project that out, to expectations of the world. And it's like, yeah, that might be great in your bathroom mirror, but it don't translate out in these streets in any kind of way. Whether it's physically, you get up in a gym and all of a sudden you want to throw up all kinds of sets that you used to back in the day, or whether it's in the dating realm, or whether it's, in just whatever, work or in any other kind of way. But yeah, man, I think a lot of times, man, folks just see who they used to be and not who they are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I know myself going out. Usually this happens for us at high school reunions because we are used to seeing ourselves. We don't think we've aged. And then we go back to like a high school reunion and see our best buddy. Like, dude, you got old.
Yeah, for real.
I ain't the only one.
For real.
So I think, there's a lot of that kind of internal body dysmorphia that they're doing. I'm not old. Why should I hang out with these old people and we're not really looking in the mirror and seeing what we look like from all angles?
Yeah. And you know, that's probably a good test. Go on social media and look at your high school friends and remember that y'all are the same age. And you know, and they don't think you look as old as you, or they think you look as old as you do to them anyway. So, you know, that's probably a great test. But you know, in a lot of areas in life, man, it's like, you know, we got to reset the expectation level. We gotta set the bar appropriately in all the different ways.
Yeah, you know, I know I'm the exception to the rule. Of course,
Right, of course.
So much better than everybody else. So because I'm the exception to the rule, I deserve to have, you know, supermodel, whatever, Victoria's Secret model, and all that stuff. Even though I don't bring nothing to the table. But I deserve that because I think I deserve it. So I'm going to manifest and use the secret to manifest Giselle since she's free right now.
Right. Yeah, no, it don't work that way, man. It just don't work that way.
Don't be ready my prayer.
I'm just keeping it real with you, man. You know, it's you getting Giselle is, man. Yeah, okay.
Well,
you probably got the same odds as you do winning the Super Bowl as a starting quarterback for the Buccaneers this year. Just saying.
I mean,
it just ain't gonna happen, man. It just ain't gonna happen. And you know, we got, and that's probably why you also need to have people around you to help level set and be like, all right, dude, you know, you going after these, you need to be going after these, you know, because it's an exercise in futility to be going after stuff that you can't get.
Right. Resistance is futile. No, I get it. And I think that this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of those episodes where normally a lot of times we're talking 2 men. This one we're really talking 4 men. So a lot of this will be directed to our ladies in your audience because we deal with you a lot and we talk to you a lot and we have had these conversations about, well, why can't I find a good man or why can't I this? And I mean, it goes both ways. We hear that a lot and it is true for guys as well. We need to check ourselves and realize that, hey, guess what? Maybe we're not at that top 10 tier like we think we are and need to have some reality checks. So it does go both ways, but this is one of those episodes where we will be especially going on deeper in the episode, talking a little more about how to keep a man who's good enough for you. Because I think what we see a lot of is this expectation of, well, I was a 10 in my 20s, and just because I'm 40 now doesn't mean I'm not a 10 anymore. I don't what sort of graduate skill you're using, but that math is wrong.
So what would you say in the dating market? What is like the peak age range? Let's say for women, like we're speaking from a guy perspective. What is the age that is the peak prime? You in your prime? I mean, in terms of women that guys are looking for, is it 23? Is it 29? I mean,
well, if you look at most of the statistics, it's 18 to 25, and if you just average that out, it comes out to 22 and a half, 23. It's kind of peak sexual marketplace value for most ladies.
Okay, so then if that's so if we arbitrarily put that at 23, then how do we implement the curve? Then do you say for every 10 years you take off 2.5 or 2 from 10? Like if you're a 10 at 23, then at 33 are you an 8? If you're at the peak, you know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like at your max, your 10 is now an 8. Well, and then if you're 43, then is your 10 now a 6?
I mean, I think it's a very personal scale because you see some of the ladies out there who are keeping it together. And so maybe their scale drops more slowly, but I think on average, probably a 2 point per decade kind of thing might work out.
So if a woman is 43, she should in her mind say that guys see me as a 6. Like max. I'm talking like,
I mean, we're gonna be honest.
I'm talking like you top tier. So a top tier 43-year-old is really like a 6.
Yeah, I mean, you got to factor in, you know, fitness and income and whether they have kids, things like that. But in general, I would say, yeah.
Wow.
And so if your average now, if your sexual marketplace average is a 6, but you're still shooting for the Tom Brady 10s and wondering why you're alone.
No. But that 6 ain't even like a 6. That 6 is if you were a 10.
Right.
So if you were a 10 at 23, then at 43, you're saying that she's a 6 max at I mean, the former 10. But to your point, when I look back at my high school classmates, the girls that were like top tier, now it's like, ooh, oh, I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad that didn't work out. I'm so glad that a lot of prom queens look like drag queens by the time they 43, I mean 53 or whatever. I'm just saying, man, don't get offended. Don't, or you can't get offended. I don't care. But I mean, it's real. When I look back, man, I'm like, oh man, she was fine in high school, man. She was the one everybody wanted. Then I'm like, man, she don't want only the zoo one right now. But then you got some. Yeah. Then you got some that was, that were kind of the Ugmos. You got the nerdy ones and what was that? Anthony. Thanks, man. We appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, brother.
But then you got the ones that were like the nerdy ones or whatever, the ones that just
once they got all the money now.
Yeah, it's just the ones that now that you see them in like, wow, dude, that ship came in like
Bezos, like when he was building Amazon, he was not a ladies' man.
$50 billion will make you look good too. I mean, I don't care who you are.
Now he's got the trainer.
Yeah. So, but I'm talking like, so yeah, some of the girls in high school, man, they just, man, some of them, like time was not friendly to you, girl. Ooh, you look like you'd have been beat up by a sausage sandwich.
So I agree with you because I have to agree it's relative. As you age, what you find the attractive changes. Well, that's true. What you find attractive changes.
Yeah. But the point is, you got to understand that you're not the 10 that you used to be. Or if you were 8, back in when you were 23 years old, then you're not that 8. That 8 is relative. That 8 is like when you play spades. I got an 8 possible. That's kind of one of those. You kind of like a bad spades player. When you put your numbers out there and stuff. But so yeah, I mean, it's one of them kind of deals, man.
You bring up a good point too, or Janine brought up a good point. Like what made you a 10 in your 20s, you might still be a 10, but the criteria changes.
Yes.
So like your body and your energy and your femininity or your masculinity, whatever, that made you a 10. Yeah. But then as you age, it's experience, it's income, it's stability, and all these other things.
Yeah. And what people find important is what that comes down. What people find valuable in that marketplace value changes too as we get older. I mean, as we get older, maybe it's not all about the looks. And I would submit, if I had to, write a thesis, I would say, man, you better move looks down the ladder a little bit in terms of all that. First of all, because when you see somebody's picture online, you don't even know what filters they got. You don't know what that is going to look like when they show up in person. And you definitely don't know what that's going to look like when you wake up in the morning. But then on top of that, people, they got needles in faces and all this other kind of nonsense. And, cosmetics can do a whole lot. So I would say, man, looks mean a whole lot in terms of, or shouldn't mean a whole lot in terms of what that value is. So,
well, we have a lot of things to look at, but what we have to look at now is a break. Time to take a break.
Break time.
Men of Masculinity on KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High. We'll be right back.
Boom. Well, it is. I mean, we're not trying to be altruistic. Like, it is what it is. I mean, it is shallow.
It is shallow. You were? You were?
You were.
You were.
That's exactly what I was thinking about.
We're gonna have to put.
We read each other's minds in here, man. We're gonna put a. So if you're watching this online, if you're watching this live,
Nikki Nicole, super producer, has been.
She's talking in our ear, but y'all can't hear what she's saying. So No. So he put the headphones on with number 3. So we should be able to hear you on number 3. We should be able to hear you on number 3. I don't know. We'll have to see if folks can hear. So yeah.
So yeah, anyway, she went on a rant about our shallow rating system, and so we want to include her.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys are shallow men that are only thinking about it, but like it's really kind of hard to gauge what guys are thinking because, you know, I'm thinking, I don't want to believe that every man out there my age, and even around my age, is simply thinking, oh, you're not a 10 on the physical appearance.
Again, it's like an equalizer. It's like your soundboard right there. You got a whole lot of different channels and a whole lot of different, things going on that creates the one output out. So that score is, the looks is just one of the channels on your soundboard right now.
Well, it's the same thing like when we talk about the sexual marketplace value for men, and money is like number 1, and looks goes down. So I mean, it's flip flop. Usually, it's looks for ladies and all the other things, go down. But
and maybe that's what makes the difference because when I look at men, money has nothing to do with it, like money, all that stuff.
yeah, because you like check out of the basement. We know that.
Well, to be fair, check out the basement.
Well, there you go. Well, move down in the basement with them. Yeah. Y'all can be happy down there.
Grow some mushrooms and have a good old time.
Have your old thing.
Can we come back now?
All right. And we back. The Mad Men of Masculinity, KLBC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City, and on the interwebs everywhere.
And if you only listen to us on KLBC, which is awesome, you can stream us live on KLBC.com. But if you're only listening to us on live, you might want to go check out the streaming videos on YouTube because, we had a whole behind-the-scenes moment that you might want to tune in for.
Absolutely. Super producer Nikki Nicole chimed in on.
She had some extra things to say.
She had some consternation.
Yes.
Is that a word?
Consternation is a good word.
Is it?
That's the word of the day. Consternation.
The word of the day is consternation. What does that mean? I don't know. I went to public school, man. I don't know, man. I'm just saying, man.
Yeah. So anyhow,
we're talking about what that expectations are. And
reality is, man, you ain't
who you used to be. And so when you get out here in these streets, you got to understand that the streets don't grade you on a curve. The streets is like the SAT. You either got the question right or you got the question wrong, and it's going to give you a score. And that score is going to be relative to everybody else's who got all of it. So the streets are undefeated in terms of that marketplace value because that's where the marketplace is. It don't matter how special you think you think your whatever is. When it gets out there, how many people have gone to sell something on Facebook or Marketplace or wherever you go to sell it. I don't even remember where you sell all kinds of stuff. And then you go put it out there and you think, oh, this thing is so nice. I'm going to list it for $500. And then, okay. And then you got to see like who actually is going to pay for that. And so when we're talking about expectations, we're talking about expectations in terms of what the streets are going to pay for that thing.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, you paid $500, you paid $1,000, you paid $1,500 for that, but that's not what the resale value is.
No,
I just upgraded. I got a new truck or a newer truck for me, and even though I put in $8,000 into my old vehicle, I'm still only gonna get $1,000 out of it.
Yeah.
So this is one of those harsh realities that you can't handle the truth moments where we're not telling you that you're not valuable, but we are telling you might want to reality check what you think your rating is.
Yeah.
Because that might be what's holding you back from getting somebody who's in your level that would be a good match for you. But like I said, a lot of times we see people who will give up a 7 or an 8. They meet 7 or 8% of their criteria to be a good match, a good mate, and then drop them because they're not 100%.
Right. And that's where you end up falling short in terms of disappointment and in terms of, man, a lot of times, and I try to catch myself more often than not, but a lot of times when I find myself disappointed in somebody or something, I try to bring myself back to the whole idea of what was I expecting out of that? Where was my level of expectation? And so there's, a lot of people, and there's a whole, like a line of thought and theory and philosophy out there of live life with no expectations.
Yeah, I mean, even to the quote that we put on as the thumbnail for this video, expectation is the quickest route to heartache. Meaning, basically, what Shakespeare was saying there, that all these expectations you have are usually expectations of the other person. They're not expectations on yourself. You're not saying, what do I expect myself to give others? And we've said it many times, you should come into a relationship or into a new dynamic with somebody thinking about how can I serve this person, not what am I getting out of it? Because especially if you both come into like, what am I getting out of this? Then you're just trying to drain each other dry. And those expectations, I mean, how many people have had these certain expectations from past relationships and then end up creating the same dynamic because they expected that so much that they basically drew, like, you could be with a guy who never cheated, but because you were cheated on in the past and you were so afraid that he was going to cheat that at some point he probably just gave up, like, I'm going to go over here where the grass is greener or at least a little nicer.
I think, and I'm really, really, really close to really thinking and settling on the fact that if somebody is having a hard time, I'm going to say in the dating scene especially, if you're single and you're really having a hard time with repeated disappointment after repeated disappointment after repeated disappointment, then I would say that maybe it comes down to your picker. And maybe your picker is keying off of unrealistic expectations. And maybe that unrealistic expectation is keying off of an unrealistic self-evaluation, I guess you can say. I mean, in terms of what your value is to the market. That car example is perfect.
Well, it's one of those things too that, and it depends on the person. So there are exceptions to the rule, or there are exceptions even to the example that I'm going to give. But a lot of times, what we see, especially when it comes to the dating world and middle-aged folks in the dating world, the ladies still have a very much higher expectation and much higher, they believe their sexual market value is much higher. Where a lot of times the guys think they're much lower. Where in most cases they're probably more equal in the middle somewhere, but it's just because of what they've been getting as feedback from the world and those around them and social media and all these other things. And so having a little bit of come to Jesus meeting in the mirror and going, maybe I'm not the 10 I thought I was, or maybe I'm not the 3 I thought I was, maybe I'm somewhere in the middle. Plus, even to Nick and Nicole's point during the break, the external factors that we tend to, especially in our younger years, use as our this is what I'm grading somebody else on, or even myself, those become less and less important. And a lot of times, those are not even the most important things that keep a relationship going.
Yeah, I'm telling you, and I actually agree with that in terms of in that dating scene. I think women, for the most part, have that higher bar than they should in terms of what, first of all, what things are attractive to men. Like what things make you a 10 or even a curved 10 or an adjusted 10, adjustable 10 or whatever it is. I mean, I think what kind of things make you that is important to get a grasp of, and at the same time to recognize, hey, maybe back to to our friend Karis, maybe you need to date in your lane. What is your lane? If your car cannot go 55, then you should probably be in the right lane. And if you got a lead foot in your car, you got a Tesla and it can't go below 55, you should probably be in the left lane. And, again, if you realistically think that you're going to get out here and I use this example loosely and it kind of falls apart based on the current events. But if you think, ladies, that you're going to get out here and you're going to find you a Tom Brady type, a tall, successful, good looking, top tier guy, you better be a Brazilian supermodel that makes more money than him.
We saw how that worked out.
Oh, right. And exactly. And even still, you see how that worked out, and there's all kinds of stuff that's going on behind the scenes with them. But, if you're not her, then stop looking for him. Yeah. And then understand that, that the guy that you're looking for is probably, or the guy that you want is probably not the guy you're looking for, or vice versa.
Yeah, and if you are a reader, or if you just want to listen to books, pick up the Marry Him book by Lori Gottlieb. This will break down a lot of things because she was dealing with the same things and wondering why she was 41 and a single mother and single and all these things and couldn't find a guy. Well, she wasn't rating herself appropriately. She was still looking for, and she had all this list of expectations, which was really interesting. One of the things they did like a little survey study and asked the guys, what are 3 things that will nix a date? Like after a first date, she's liking the second date. And the guys had like a list of 3 things. Like she was mean, she was, aggressive or, masculine or whatever the things were. But then when they surveyed the ladies, it was a list of 300 things that would nix a date. And most of them are such superficial things that it didn't really register as far as reality.
Yeah. I'll never say blanket across the board that a man will get to a point where looks never matter. I think he has to be attracted physically in order to be attracted emotionally, or to get to the point where he's attracted or connected emotionally. So I don't want to pretend that looks don't matter, but I will recognize that the older a man gets, you could be the most gorgeous whomever, but if you bring a bunch of nonsense into the picture and you expected him to run full circles and you expect to test him, and for him to put up with your drama and I know a whole lot of on the surface gorgeous women, very pretty women who are very pretty and very lonely because they expect to get into a relationship and to have, like they could when they were 23, to have a guy put up with a bunch of mess and a bunch of nonsense. And the reality is, ain't nobody got no time for that, man. My peace means a whole lot.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we wanted to bring this up for, is because a lot of the stuff that we are judging relationships by, and what I hear a lot of times and even see in the examples, is because 80% of marriages are now, divorces are ending because ladies are filing for divorce. 70 or 80% now, divorces are filed by ladies. And a lot of times what we're seeing is the reasons are they're bored, there's no butterflies, they think they can still get the 10 guy that they thought they should have got when they were in their 20s or 30s. And now they're single mothers in their middle years and they can't find anybody. Yeah. And so that's why we want to talk about this, because maybe we can stop some of you who are just going through the 7-year blues or 7-year itch. You're just going through one of those times where if you looked at this as an opportunity to strengthen your marriage instead of an opportunity to get rid of it, then you might have an opportunity to save and be with a guy who actually meets more of your criteria and is the best match for you than dropping that guy who meets 70 or 80% of your needs and wants in a relationship and going after a guy who probably isn't going to want you because now you're older and you've got baggage and things like that.
And, fun, cool, bad boy guy, especially one that's in his 40s and 50s and he's still playing the bad boy role and all that. I'm telling you, he ain't going to be around, much longer than the fun ends. Like when you ain't fun no more, then we ain't fun no more, man. I'm on to something else. I'm just being real, man. And so, and when that guy's looking for the fun factor, and if you want to try to keep, pulling a rabbit out of your hat and pulling out a new trick, and if you want to keep trying to, do the next thing to keep it fun for him, then good luck for you. You kind of get what you deserve at that point, But if you want somebody long lasting, if you want, something that's stable, all that kind of stuff, maybe it's not the guy with the nicest car. Maybe it is the plumber.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at what actually creates long-term relationships, what creates stability in long-term relationships. It's not usually the things that people are looking for, like money and career and height and looks and all these different things. It's usually compassionate, communicative, stable, things that aren't necessarily sexy, but those are actually the foundational implements and blocks for a steady long-term relationship.
Yeah, it definitely has to be beneath the surface. Like it has to be beneath the surface. You got to get to the point where your expectations are not something that a needle or a scalpel can fix or can make better or worse or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's got to be something that is long-lasting, something that happens, proverbially when the lights are out, but I don't mean that way. I mean when it ain't about the visual.
Right, and that's the thing, especially as guys, when we get older, we are still interested in the visual and the look, but we're more interested in the peace and the compassion and cooperative mindset that comes usually with age, and sometimes doesn't. I mean, there are exceptions to that rule too. Yeah. Speaking of exceptions to that rule, I think we need to accept ourselves a break.
Break. We'll be right back here at 12:20 a.m. KLDC, the Mile High City. Shout out Comfort Broadcasting. We'll be right back. Mad Men of Masculinity.
Questions?
Would you guys say that for women, money is the top thing we look at? Like, are you guys like literally looking at a monetary value thinking that's what we look at?
Well, most of the evidence and most of what ladies that we see are asking about, at least in the dating world, or at least maybe it's just millennials that we see that are the small percentage but the loudest. But they're like, oh, he's got to be a baller, he's got to make six figures, he's got to be 6 feet tall, which is, when you get all these statistics into play, it's like the top 1 to 5% of guys. So not all ladies, I think, would be after like maybe they make enough of their own, but that's what we see out there.
And it's about that security. It's just, what it boils down to is that level of security, and he's got to have something going on. I mean, we make fun of the guy that's living in his mom's basement. Why? Because he doesn't have anything. He can't offer you anything. He can't be your provision or your protection or any of that kind of stuff.
And that right there, like that's, you guys use that example before, but me, when I see a guy living in his basement in his 30s, I think, okay, he's starting from scratch and he's getting financially sound and working with what he has. So, like, to me, and a lot of the females that I know and kick it with, it's more about what are they doing with their life? Like, are they out making things? Are they out working hard? Are they out, serving a purpose? And generally, money is just the fiduciary example.
I think everything you just said is very altruistic, but I think it's, if nothing else, at best, it's the exception and not the rule. I think the reality is it is a stigma for a guy to be living in his mom's basement or his parents' basement. Like, that is not something that you're going to post on Facebook, or that is something that, and I'm talking generally across the board. Like, it's just, let's just be real. Like, that just, it's a butt of a joke for a reason.
I kind of want to take you guys to the groups one day. And
Yeah, well.
Like, all the females, because it makes me how different the females you guys talk about are females.
I'm thoroughly convinced that y'all tell each other stuff that ain't true. I'm thoroughly convinced that y'all tell each other stuff that sounds great to each other and all that kind of stuff, but in reality, that ain't what guys are experiencing.
Well, yeah, and that's okay, because at my, like, in my world, my conservative country world and whatnot, it's like there are still, fair share of gold diggers and whatnot. We get them all pinpointed, but like it's looking more like the exact opposite with both the men and women than how you guys talk. So it's really kind of interesting, like where that's coming from, like, and that's what I struggle figuring out with you guys is why is my world looking so different than your world?
Because women are more surface and more about the advertisement and not the product. I'm just being honest. I'm just being real. I'm serious. I mean, look at social media. I mean, it's, women post stuff on social media for other women, not for guys of public consumption. I mean, I'm telling you that if you lined up a room full of guys, the room full of guys will tell you probably to a person all the exact same experiences, but it'll be probably very opposite of the way y'all talk to and the way y'all tell each other stuff. I mean, with the community, the way y'all communicate in the stories y'all tell each other.
Well, and you're talking about the Grizzly Rose, which is a conservative country bar, which is a smaller.
Well, yeah, like I am, in a very conservative world,
Yeah.
but I still average. Well, I mean, obviously, when I was there full time, I would average a few hundred conversations a weekend.
Yeah.
Right, but that's also a very small percentage of the population. You're not in downtown Denver. You're up north of downtown Denver at one bar.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. But like in your guys's area and whatnot, you're in a very different area, and so it kind of makes me wonder how much of the behavior does come down to demographics.
I think the main demographic it comes down to is men versus women. You're talking to women, not men.
Yeah.
When you're having those conversations, those hundreds of conversations, they're with men. They're with women. And so women aren't going to be able to relate or to say what men are experiencing or what is happening on the other side of
Well,
it.
actually, I do have like a good chunk of men that talk to me on the regular.
You
So
need to ask them what they're experiencing in the dating field. I'm trying
no, I
to,
know what they
because
are.
I'm putting it here.
To me about their
thinking that
dating
it's gonna be on
problem.
there. That's my
Yeah.
logic.
Okay. I was just curious what you're doing with that. All right.
He's wondering why I got the headphones on my chest, and I'm trying to put it near my lapel mic so it'll come out on.
Okay.
All right, let's get back to
Yeah, we gotta go back to the
here all
show.
night.
Nick. Can we go back to the show? Okay. And we're back.
We back.
Men of Masculinity on KLTC.
Yes, we're back. Back
in High City, and you gotta have to go behind the scenes, folks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Don't let us air what we just had a conversation about.
You got to go behind the scenes. That's good stuff.
So,
Real
Men
stuff.
of Masculinity on YouTube. Go up there and check out what you just mentioned.
Boom.
Because we have been pushing some of Nikki's buttons, apparently. Skills is on fire.
We should have put out a trigger alert on this one. But the reality is perception and reality. The reality is perception and reality.
Well, reality is
It'd be
relative
different.
to your perceptions, and everybody's perception is different.
Right.
Everybody's experience is different.
And as we have all of these conversations, the underlying message, we can't keep saying it every show. We can't keep saying it throughout each show, but there's always exceptions. That we're talking in generalities. We can't have conversations about topics and talk to all of the different exceptions and all of the different niches in the conversation. So we're talking generalities, and in our generalities, it's in terms of the two of us. It's the people that we know. It's the people that we've met. It's the conversation that we are parts of men's groups. I mean, we just got a confirmation text from a guy who Jude, who was on with us, that our podcast are going to be on his. We have these active conversations. I mean, we are involved in singles groups that we have these conversations. So we're not talking about stuff, and we have our own experience.
Yeah,
So
we're not just making it up.
We're not.
Just
This is not in a vacuum. I promise we're not just.
But that's the other thing too. That's the point we even made to Nikki Coastal Producers, that each of our experiences is from our own experiences, which is a small portion of the population. Right. So depending on what your experience is, and where you're coming from, if it's a more conservative country background, then maybe money's not the top thing. Maybe it's what kind of truck he drives or how much land he's got. But
how nice his cowboy boots are.
How nice his cowboy boots are. How pressed his jeans are.
Can you do the walk? Can you do the what is the two-step? That's what I was saying. The dance.
Or the slide. What is it? The country slide or the line dance?
Line dance. Yeah. Can you line dance?
If you live downtown,
what does his belt buckle look like?
Yeah, right. If you live downtown in the money part of the city and you're a socialite, I guarantee you money and status will be more high on the list.
Yeah. I'd say there's probably more often than not. 51 out of 100 is always kind of our go-to in terms of that you or that or them or they, whoever. And we're talking in general here to the audience here, but there's a 49% chance that everything we say may not apply.
It is very possible.
But we are pretty confident in the fact that there's a 51% chance that it's probably true.
And the whole purpose of this expectations episode is to shine a little bit of light on the fact that maybe you need to look in the mirror and check your expectations. Because if you are lonely, sad, and all by yourself and wondering why it's the men's fault or the lady's fault or somebody else's fault, maybe it's time to look in the mirror and go, maybe my expectations are too high. Maybe I'm not focusing on what I'm bringing to the relationship. Maybe I'm not focusing on being of service in this relationship. Maybe I'm too focused on what I'm getting.
Well, that's a great segue there in terms of expectations. Expectations in relationships. Expectations once you have the person, once you are in that long-term, that committed, whatever that relationship is. And I think it's a great mentality to be in a relationship situationship, to be in a relationship and to have the mindset of my expectation is for myself. How do I serve this person today? And what if both people in a relationship woke up every morning thinking, how can I serve this person today? And have that be the expectation, as opposed to, how come they haven't texted me? It's 10 o'clock already. I know they at work already. And they know I'm thinking about it. They know I'm waiting on my 10 o'clock text and all that kind of stuff. But what if the expectation is, you know what? Here's what I'm going to contribute. Here's my part in ownership of this relationship.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point too. Like, ladies and gentlemen, men and women are different. I don't care what the social narrative is. We're different. We think different. We operate differently. So, ladies, if you're to Kirk's point, wondering why he's not texting you while he's at work. Maybe he's thinking
Why
about
you gotta put me out there like that for ladies?
You just said it, man.
Why I gotta be me?
Don't be sensitive.
I gotta be. I ain't texting. Texting one person.
But that's the point. Men think differently. We're compartmentalized. We think, okay, this is work brain, this is home brain, this is sports brain, this is guy's brain, this is nothing, brain, box, whatever. And then, ladies are all connected, and they want to know why he's not thinking of him, why he's at work. Well, he's at work trying to provide. He's at work slaying that dragon and fighting those demons to bring home a check and provide for you. He is thinking of you because he's working to bring home the bacon. Maybe he's not going to text you the whole time, but he's still thinking of you.
I think some of those unrealistic expectations when we get into the context of relationship and maybe some major reasons why relationships fail, and they fail way before they end, by the way, two totally different things. But one of the reasons why relationships fail is because we have our expectations in the wrong place. Our expectations are externally focused as opposed to internally focused. And we are with a person expecting them to meet my needs and expecting them to know what I want, know what I need, to be like me, think like me, and just be there already when I need them to be there. When we have those expectations and those expectations aren't met, then it's really easy to get disappointed. And when you get to the point where you don't communicate those things, those needs and all that kind of stuff, then man, it just gets really off track.
Yeah, that's actually one of the biggest reasons for issues in relationships, unexpressed expectations. I don't know what it is or why. Maybe it's just because we've not been trained. Maybe it's just a lack of experience. But we get in these relationships and think we can mind meld and like send telepathically to our partner our needs and expectations. We don't say a word. We don't even write them a note or give them a map or anything. But then we expect them to follow and meet these expectations that we haven't even put on the table. Yeah. And that's why we talk a lot about maybe looking at your relationship as a business in certain aspects and having these meetings like, these are my expectations. And then he comes back with, these are my expectations. And then you have a mediated meeting maybe, or you just go, okay, well, let's compromise and figure out where we can meet in the middle and which expectations will be met, which will not be met, which are mutually beneficial, and those kind of things.
I like the idea of communicating needs and communicating, and if you're in a relationship with a person, you should need them for something. Need something from them. Now, I don't mean need like air. I mean need like air conditioning. I mean, I think at some point you have to have ownership of your baseline needs. You can't expect the other person to know that you're hungry and you want a certain sandwich from whatever. You can't expect them to know that, hey, they're hungry right now and they want In-N-Out, and I'm gonna go get them a animal style double, whatever. It just doesn't work that way. But being able to communicate needs in terms of, here are the things I need from you. I need you to speak my love language. I need to hear love from you in the form of my love language. I need whatever those things are, but to communicate those things, man, it's important. And then to give them the opportunity to meet those needs. And again, when both people are doing that externally, and then when both people are serving externally and looking at how am I doing today in meeting that person's needs, then your expectation is flipped, not to the other person, but to yourself, and you hold yourself more accountable than them.
Yeah, if you're looking at this relationship as what am I bringing and what am I doing for my partner versus complaining about or being butthurt about what they're not doing, well, maybe they don't know what you need. But just to that point, if you're focused on how you can improve the relationship, then you're not focused on what they're not doing. And I guarantee you, if you're providing something to them in that way, they're going to reciprocate.
Right.
The squeaky wheel gets greased kind of thing. If you're providing what you expect, and that's one of the things we talked about as well, give what you want to receive. If you want to receive love and kindness and compassion from your partner, then give those things. Don't demand them. Don't try to pull it out of them. Give those things, and then you will receive those things. We receive what we give out of the world. We don't receive what we demand. You might get it for a minute, but then you're going to bleed that poor person dry, and that's it.
And these are in the healthy scenarios. If you're with a healthy person, I mean, if you're in a healthy relationship where it's a flow, where there literally is no dam and the relationship is not dammed, there's a flow of water, constantly kind of back and forward. You're talking a healthy scenario, a healthy relationship. So yeah, for the person that's saying, yeah, but then I do this, and then at some point I need, we're talking about not the unhealthy narcissist that only wants, that is a taker and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about a healthy flow of a relationship. But to be able to put yourself in that scenario of, okay, I'm going to fill their cup with their love, and then their love is going to overflow into my cup. And then it's going to continue and continue and continue, because that's how we operate. I don't operate from giving them a list of demands and they need to meet them, and then it's conditional. I will when they will. And, well, I've heard so many different times, when I find a respectable man, I'll respect him. Really? Huh? So it's okay for a guy to say, when I find a lovable woman, I'll love her. No, that's not. And so it's one of those things. As I'm loving you, you are respecting me. As you are respecting me, I am loving you. And it is a flow. It's not conditional. It's just what we do. We wake up in the morning thinking about, how can I love her? How can I respect him?
Yeah, and to that point, a lot of these relationships that we see that aren't lasting are unhealthy, because you will see a guy or a girl doing the husbandly things or the wifely things to that partner, and they're not reciprocating. But because of their poor picker, they chose this person who's not going to reciprocate, and then they keep pouring into this bottomless well of this, vessel of this person, and then they wonder why can't I get them to? I'm doing what you guys are saying. I'm giving what I want to receive. Well, that's why we wanted to do this episode of expectations and maybe checking your expectations, because maybe your picker's broke.
Yeah.
Maybe you haven't had a healthy relationship, not because you're not doing the right things, but you're picking the wrong person to do them with.
Your expectations should absolutely be for yourself, self-ownership. What am I doing what am I doing to contribute potentially to this relationship, but also what am I doing to contribute to the potential frustration that I'm having in my relationship settings? Why all guys are this? Well, no, all the guys you pick. All women are all the women you pick. Well, if you keep experiencing the same thing over and over again, then maybe the problem is not men or women. Maybe the problem is it's in the mirror. And if you keep experiencing the same thing, and if you want something so desperately, but as soon as you get it, you scare them off and all that kind of stuff, well, maybe, just maybe, you're a Klingon, Klingon level 10, and it's not fun being with somebody that's needy like that.
Yeah, and that's what tends to happen. I see a lot too, is people build up their sexual marketplace value with these high expectations, and then they shoot for the moon, and maybe they get the attention of that 10 person or who they deem as the 10. Well, you're not a 10 in their eyes. They're not chasing you. There's no reciprocation there. And then you become heartbroken, desperate after the fact, because you're not being realistic with your expectations, what you're bringing to the table, what you are, I don't want to say worth, I don't like worth, but what lane you're in, and working with those that are within your demographic, for lack of a better term.
I mean, ultimately, in the long run, the balanced relationships are two people that are to some degree in the same lane, to some degree, on the same, I'm going to say proverbial level, whatever, not level in terms of good, better, or best, but just equal. I mean, just equal in terms of you're at the same place.
Yeah.
You're at the same place in one way or another, and you can meet and relate and connect.
Well, as we meet and relate, connect with you here on KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City, we're going to take a nice little break so we can meet, connect behind the scenes. Love you. We'll be right back.
Are you still back there, super producer Nikki Nicole?
She doesn't want to be.
Oh, I can't see. I got my big head in the way. You are literally blocked by my head. My head, I can't see anything back behind me. Nice.
So I will point out that the rosehip that was comment on your thing, yeah, that's my battle buddy Duran. Yeah, he's one of the guys that needs a show like you. And I've been promoted, seriously, he's the one, he comes to me for dating advice more than anybody.
Nice.
Oh yeah, totally putting him on blast. And I love him, and I can, and he knows it. But yeah, he's one of the guys where when I wanted to start your show, I had him and guys like him in mind.
So it's all your fault. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here.
Exactly. You're the genesis.
Genesis of creation.
Nice. All right, let's genocide this last segmente.
Bring us back.
We back. We the Mad Men of Masculinity. We on KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City. We on the interwebs everywhere. We here in the Mile High City, like 12 floors up, overlooking, what are we overlooking? Havana, and overlooking Cherry Creek Reservoir, overlooking all kinds of stuff. Man, you can look down and see Kennedy Golf Course, all those kind of things.
Yeah, we like Kennedy Golf.
No doubt.
Hey, Kennedy, give us a shout out.
Holla at your boys, man. Holla at your boys.
Maybe let's just advertise it for you.
Yo, Mr. Tang down around the corner. I like Mr. Tang. I like
Mr. Tang.
See Mr. Tang.
Screen barbecue.
Hook it up. Man, expectations, man. You know, I think as men, or from a man's perspective, you know, the way we wake up each morning, our expectations for the day will probably set the tone for how we experience at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and even if you get into the neuroscience of it, look at like Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. If you get up each day and you're doing the same things every day, and you're firing the same neurons every day, and just you get up out of bed the same way, you drink the same coffee, you go to the same job, you're doing the same thing. How is your life different? You're basically just on Groundhog Day. You're just doing the same things over and over again. And if you're getting the same results over and over again, then maybe you need to change your expectations, what you're doing in the world, and how you're showing up, and maybe even what you're expecting and thinking about.
Yeah. And that on the flip side of that, when you wake up each day with the right mindset, when you wake up each day, you know, focused on the right things, doing the right things, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, you know, health-wise, diet-wise, relationally, you know, whatever your vocation is, all that kind of stuff, man. When you wake up with the right expectations for the day, not necessarily that everything's gonna be perfect every day, you know, but at the same time, I believe when you wake up with a positive outlook, you begin to see the positive things that happen, you know, throughout the day, man. And when you wake up with your I am statements in check, you know, and you begin to see those things that you look for in life. And so, you know, set your expectations in that positive way too.
Well, I think what we were talking about in relationship works in life as well. If you have expectations that you got to go out and provide something to the world to make yourself feel better, if you got to get up in the morning and like, this is what I'm going to do to make the world a better place, and that's how I'm going to get my joy and love in the world, and how I'm going to make myself feel better. It's not what the world's going to do for me. It's what I'm going to do for the world. And I think a lot of the guys that we talk about and talk with are missing is that they no longer have that bigger thing for themselves that they expect to go out and provide for. So now they have to find something. And just having that mindset of, I'm getting up today and I'm going to make the world a better place. Not, I'm getting up today, the world better be good to me, or I'm not going to be happy, whatever. You know, poor me, violin playing self. But that's how we get out in the world and make the world a better place, and take that attitude into relationships, into business, and into, you know, every aspect of life. And I guarantee you're going to improve your experience of life.
What if your focus for expectation for the day or your life is contribution based? What am I contributing to? Am I contributing to a better world? Am I contributing to a better place? Am I contributing to a better relationship? Am I contributing to society? Am I making anything better than it was yesterday? When I am gone, will the world be a better place because I was here? And if you live your life with a level of expectation for yourself to make the things around you better, then by default, when that tide comes in, all boats rise, and that includes you. And so if your expectation is based on your contribution to making something better, then the world you create will be better, and the world that you live in will be better as a result.
Yeah. So as we are having this conversation, we started off with relationships and what's your sexual marketplace value and stuff. Maybe shifting, if just look at being honest with yourself, like what am I experiencing? And am I still here with this entitled mindset of the world needs to bring me and the world owes me a living or whatever, or my partner owes me these things? And if you can shift that into what am I doing to improve my relationship? What am I doing to improve my partner? What am I doing to improve the world? And you will actually find a greater sense of self-satisfaction, a greater sense of self-esteem, of self-love. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there and you're struggling with self-esteem and self-love and self-worth and all these things, maybe it's because you still have that entitled mindset or that mindset of why is the world doing this to me versus what am I doing to the world? You know, you got that victim mindset of, oh, it's happening to me instead of for me, and I have no power to change it. But you do. You can get up every morning and decide, I'm going to make a positive difference in the world, whatever that may be. And it could be small things. And I preach all the time, do small things every day to make the world a better place. And everybody does those small things and it changes the world.
Yeah. I mean, and that's important. It's an important distinction to make the world a better place, as opposed to just making yourself the center of the universe. I saw a post that somebody made, and matter of fact, it was as she was exiting a singles group on Facebook, and it was like, I decided that I'm just gonna make myself the center of my world and focus on myself and just do me. So I'm just not into this whole singles thing, and I don't want to look for nobody. I don't want anybody. I'm just like, how miserable of a place is that, where you are the center of your universe? Like that is literally, I believe that's scientifically what a black hole is. It sucks, like literally. I mean, it's a place of emptiness. It's a place of just self-consumption, and it's nothing, man. And that's miserable, and you're just gonna have a miserable life.
Well, it's just a really childish mindset because we're all egocentric as children. It's part of the survival mechanism, what keeps us alive as children. But then as you get older and get out in the world, then it becomes instead of egocentric, exocentric, or whatever the word is that. Now you're focused on those outside of you, your family and your partners and the world outside of you. And so, yes, sometimes we can go too far that way as well. I can accept that we can get so externally focused that we forget about ourselves. But when you go completely internal, and I get that most of the time that's a trauma defense and a pain defense mechanism where I feel hurt because of this. And so since I don't want to have that pain again, I'm just going to turn inward. But of course, as we know, just turning inward with your pain is now you're in your pity party, sitting in your pain tub, and it's not going anywhere. You're not dealing with it.
Yeah, and like I said, that kind of mentality, man, you're destined for a life of loneliness and bitterness. And we as humans weren't created. I mean, we're not wired to be alone. Like in prison, they punish inmates by putting them in isolation. And so when you live a me-centric life existence mentality, and when that is your expectation, like, man, that's a lonely, miserable place to be. And you're going to be repulsive to everybody that you come in contact with. And that's not the way we should be thinking. That's absolutely not the expectation we should have when we wake up in the morning.
Yeah. And so as we get close to ending and lining up on the runway for this episode of Expectations, what we want to take away from this, what we'd like you to take away from this is maybe check your expectations. Maybe if you look at the results, often harsh, always fair. Look at the results you're getting in life. If they're not results you want to experience, you keep getting them over and over again. Maybe you look at your expectations. Maybe look at what you're bringing to the world and shift those things. Yeah. And so that's all we wanted to say. Yeah. How about you, sir? What do you want?
Man, I'm telling you, just again, set that baseline for reality, as opposed to it's the market value. It's not what your sentimental value is. And, if you wanted to go sell it on the open market, if you wanted to go sell it online somewhere, how much would it be worth for somebody else to buy it? It's not how much you want to sell it for that determines the value. The value is what would somebody pay for that thing. And so when it comes to your expectations in life, your expectations for a relationship, for your body, your health, and in your spiritual life, your mental, whatever it is, man, your expectations should be, okay, I need to set a realistic baseline for what I expect out of this thing based on where I am going into that thing.
Yeah, and absolutely. Remember, if you're struggling with this, think about how you would tell your best friend or a friend on, how would you advise them? Because sometimes it's hard to advise yourself, but how would you advise your friend when dealing with the same thing and then maybe turn that back on yourself? Because a lot of times we could be much more clear and honest with our friends, but not with ourselves.
And with that, Madman out.